Hey guys, welcome back to today's edition of NDD. And I want to start with some, I don't want to call it breaking news, but it is significant because it relates to the partnership, the long-standing partnership, decades-long partnership between Notre Dame football and NBC. Peacock recently set its slate as that relationship treks on now into 30 plus years. And that involves many of the 2025 football games on the schedule. You've got the October 11th home game against NC State. That one is not going to be dual cast by the network and Peacock. That is exclusively Peacock only. Last year, you'll remember, that was the green out game against Louisville. September games against Texas A&M and Purdue. October dates, Boise State, USC, and November against Navy and Syracuse, which could be crucial games for the Irish, will be exclusively streamed on both Peacock and NBC. So it's just that NC State game that won't be anchored by the network itself. It will exclusively be on Peacock. Now, Peacock did come out and say, in addition to these games, and we saw this last year, that its relationship with Big Ten football is going to continue. A slate for that has been created as well. And we know that Notre Dame season begins on the road in Coral Gables, August 31st, in Miami, before the home opener comes up 2 weeks later, September 13th, against Texas A&M. That'll be Peacock and NBC. So the relationship between the big brand and the big brand of the Golden Dome continues. Moving forward, Marcus Freeman has been in the media for all the right reasons, and he's been on a media splurge in speaking with various outlets. Recently with ESPN and their Always Football broadcast, Freeman discussed the potential and the outside options of not just becoming creative with his offense, but using two quarterbacks. And beyond that, and you might say, well, Pete, what's the big deal? It's not the idea of having maybe a passing quarterback and then a short yardage quarterback come in. This is not Tommy Rees, Everett Golson circa 2012. What Marcus Freeman hinted at between Kenny Minchey and CJ Carr, with Minchey seemingly the leader in the clubhouse, as I said a couple of days ago, from my seat in the clubhouse, it looks like that is true. Marcus Freeman teased the idea of having two quarterbacks on the field at the same time, which is a rarity. You're going to look for a way to help your team win, Freeman said in a recent chat with ESPN's Always College Football. Quote, if that means you use two quarterbacks for certain situations, then you're going to find a way to use two quarterbacks, end quote. I don't necessarily have a problem with this, and first and foremost, it's because I fully am invested in Marcus Freeman and believe in his vision for the program. You don't accidentally get to a national title game or accidentally win 14 games in 16 tries if you don't know what you're doing, if your head is in your you-know-what. Marcus Freeman's isn't. The man has a plan, and we should trust that plan. While it's going to create uncertainty for some, and I get that, I think the proof is in the pudding that between Coach Gino, Coach Denbrock, Coach Freeman, that there's a plan in place, there's a roadmap to follow, and it leads to success. And for Notre Dame, you want that sustainability and that success to lead to another berth in the college football playoff. It is all about creativity. In the new age of football, and that includes the high school levels, you don't see too many of these programs that strictly run the football anymore. It's a passing game. And you win games straight up your 11 versus the opposition's 11 by getting the best players on the field at the same time. And if that's two quarterbacks, the hell with it. Marcus Freeman is going to put the best product out there. It's fun, it's exciting, and it's going to open up something potentially, if they do it, that either a defense hasn't seen or much, or they're just completely ill-prepared for. And as the offseason rolls along, we'll be able to see how that develops. And I think Marcus Freeman continues to change this game, and certainly the landscape of Notre Dame, because from a creativity standpoint, not to hammer and bring up loose ends, but we just didn't see that with the previous regime. We're seeing it now, and I think it's developing in a great way. So I'm excited to see how that shapes out. On the recruiting trail in 2026, it remains a loaded class. I mean, you could end this cycle before August with maybe the top recruiting class in the country, depending on what outlet you use. Notre Dame is a top 3 class. And you know they're not done on the recruiting front. You've got Irish Invasion coming up later this week on Friday, June 6th. But one of the players Notre Dame would love to land is Juniper Sierra edge Kari Wilder. This is a kid who was beloved out on the West Coast. He's a Cali kid, UCLA, USC after him. But now news comes out from different media sources that Wilder is not going to visit the Trojans, at least not this summer. But where will he be? South Bend, Indiana. 6'4", 260. He's a specimen. Explosion of interest across the country, and he is now believed to be one of those guys that Notre Dame wants to add to what has already been a great defensive line front this offseason. So when you bring in someone like a Wilder and you have him in front of you, get him on campus, and then Notre Dame fans will love this. You find out that he's not going to visit perhaps your biggest rival in USC. You sort of chuckle. But you have him coming to campus the week after Irish Invasion. That's another crucial weekend. Father's Day weekend, June 13 to 15. Piggybacking the Irish Invasion, which I'll talk much more about tomorrow, where you're going to have 100-plus recruits, mostly for 27-28 class on campus, to then sandwich that with another immense weekend of recruiting. And now you find out that a kid like Kari Wilder is going to be in attendance this late. That's huge. You've got a kid here, from my perspective, who just has a knack for getting to the quarterback. That's what you want. That's what Al Washington has been preaching, and that's why he's continued to done a hell of a job on the recruiting trail. I'm excited about this across the board. I think this would be another just tip of the cap here, as it would be with the guy I'm going to close the show with, and that's Alistair Vallejo. You heard me talk about him last week, the kid from Liberty Hill out in Texas. Another defensive tackle that you could potentially just throw into this class, and it's a class that already includes the kids from North Carolina, Rodney Dunham, Ebenezer Iwatati, Tiki Ola, another just ferocious defensive tackle. Could you imagine if you're able to put Vallejo in this grouping? I mean, Al Washington goes to sleep at night, and he's dreaming of just everything gold and blue. To build your team, and I said this yesterday, you know that NIL in the portal plays a role, folks, but I cannot stress the importance of what it means to not just recruit, but actively recruit, engage in your recruitment, and relate to these players. No one does that better, and I mean no one, now going into year 4, than Marcus Freeman and his staff. And Alistair Vallejo is going to be on campus this week as he wraps up his visit, ironically enough today, midweek. The essential point there being, Vallejo announced earlier in the week that he's going to set his commitment date for June 10th. So the Irish are getting a big swing at him late in this, and there's not going to be too much opportunity for other teams to come knocking before the outstanding defensive tackle sets his date. Oregon State, Houston, Oklahoma State, Michigan, Ole Miss, they're all in the running for this kid. But Notre Dame gets one final swing at him in this lineup before he sets his date. And having a player of this ilk on campus this late in a recruiting cycle just shows you how much recruiting interest and intrigue there are, not just from coach to player or player to coach, but mutually. It's that cross-referencing, right? It's that connectivity. That's what Marcus Freeman preaches. It's not just about winning football games. That's what you have to do at the top. But you cannot be a successful coach, and you will not be a successful coach unless you build those blocks up. We saw that last year, Notre Dame getting to the national title game, and they were just mere plays away from potentially winning that. This is a huge deal at the end of a recruiting cycle for another defensive tackle that the Irish would love to add. We'll talk more about Irish Invasion, which comes up at the end of the week, and then the recruiting cycle that continues the following weekend. I hope you have a great rest of your day. You know how to subscribe by now across all platforms here on NDD and FanArch. I will talk to you all tomorrow. As always, go Irish.